Two more questions. First one is to do with, and I know that cities and almost all localities in Ohio have really been hammered by the Ohio General Assembly. And I think the figure that folks involved in issue 13 is putting out there is $20 million that it's cost Canton. And I've written many blogs about the horror of that. And but I think I get around Stark County pretty well. I see a lot of different management styles of government at all levels, political subdivisions. I think mismanagement has been a factor too in city and township government and border, even schools probably. How much of is that a factor at all going back before your administration? And you've already alluded to 50 or 60 years ago. But it's more than just 50 or 60 years ago that the condition that we find Canton in today. So are those issues being looked at in terms of use of the new money if voters approve it, to make sure that you have the very best efficient and effective administration of those funds that can possibly be?
Well, again, from my perspective, absolutely. Democracy is a wonderful thing. It's the best choice out there by way of government, and it's the best choice of government in the entire world. A downside of democracy is that anybody can put their name on a ballot and get elected, and depending on the well-known, whether the name is well-known or not or otherwise, or depending on how good of a campaign they can run, somebody can be elected to be a chief executive of a city or of a township or of a county and have very little practical experience, or perhaps even very little common sense and so forth. They may have great political sense and so forth, and people elect people that probably shouldn't have been elected, because I think that you need to understand government first. Government does operate differently than business. I think that you have to understand business. I think you have to be able to go between the two of them. I think you have to understand financial statements and revenues and expenditures. And I think you have to understand union contracts and things like that. And to the extent that people get elected that don't have, those kinds of backgrounds and experiences and so forth, it probably leads to less than always making the best decision, for the political subdivision. So, there are downsides to our elective system, and obviously you and I can both, run off a name of a list of names at all levels of government.
Right.
That we would say, boy, that guy should have never been elected, and boy, look what he or she brought to the table, and boy, we walk away scratching our heads.
Okay,
but
final question.
We continue to looking, and that's probably, I spend more time than anything, and that is just pushing everybody to up their game. If you're a C player, I want you to become a B minus player, and when you get to being B minus and doing your work, I want you to become a B plus, and then I want you to get to an A. And I think that we just have to keep pushing, and we have to look at the finances. Even this kind of an issue, like putting issue 13 together, is a real challenge, putting it together with all of the groups that you have to. So we've had great support, and I do want to emphasize we've had great support. We've had unanimous support. We have, police and fire. We have 3 unions among them who have endorsed this. ASME has endorsed it. So city unions are behind this. In the private sector, the East Ohio Building Trades have endorsed this and have been great contributors to it. The plumbers and pipe fitters, the iron workers, great groups of private labor, the laborers union have endorsed it. So people that are out there in Canton doing the work have endorsed it. On the business side, we got the chamber involved in this and so forth. So it takes, again, that kind of leadership or whatever it requires to put that together, to put something like this together. So This is all good.